What's up, everybody? Welcome to GoJo and Golic live in Las Vegas. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. We got a great show coming up for you guys today. We are presented by 1-800-Flowers.com, DraftKings official flowers for Valentine's. We got flowers all over the set now. We're back at Radio Row today, and we got a doozy, Dad. It is starting to put the foot all the way down on the gas here at Radio Row.
I mean, this is when it starts to get humping here, and it is going to get nothing but crazier. A lot more people milling around.
Yeah.
The stars are out now, milling. You can always tell because when Mike and I walk around here, we walk around by ourselves.
Yes.
When the stars walk around here, they have an entourage.
They do.
We are an entourage of none.
We have seen a lot of entourages today. We have some that are going to join the show. We're hoping to talk to Kendrick Bourne, free agent wide receiver, is going to be joining us here. Anthony Munoz, the Hall of Famer. For my money, the greatest left tackle to ever play professional football, going to join us. Robbie Gould, 18-year veteran kicker. We had a little kicking experience there, a little redemption story for me that we'll explain.
Yes, we will.
To Jay Glazer that's going to join us. And Dan Le Batard, our buddy from the Dan Le Batard show. Never been on the show with us here. Hasn't been out to the Super Bowl, Stu got said, since 2005.
That's the amazing thing to me is he shunned it. I mean, when the Super Bowl was in Miami, I think he went to New Orleans.
He went to New Orleans.
He got out of Dodge. So just to have Dan at a Super Bowl is something, but then to get him on the show, we are really looking forward to that.
We dragged him out to Radio Row. Usually, I always had to sneak into the Le Batard sphere with Stu Gotts. I was the forbidden lover. Dan would leave, and Stu Gotts would bring me down here, and we'd share in those times. So now we got Dan coming up here. So again, Kendrick Bourne, Anthony Munoz, Dan Le Batard, Jay Glazer, Robbie Gould. We got it wall-to-wall packed here today. But can I just say, Dad, you mentioned the entourages going around, and some of the bigger stars starting to show up today. I saw two people that reminded me that other people's better is just better. The first one, no surprise, Shannon Sharp. Club Shay Shay around here. That man, so I'm wearing like a bit of like a cashmere sweater today. He has got one as well that is just all muscle. It looks like it is painted on to his very large, still play-able body.
Wasn't there a tweet or something, Instagram, something of him working out, and he was like, had the 110 dumbbells doing incline press?
Oh, his TikTok is just full of workout videos, and I pray they never stop.
I mean, the pin would fly out of my shoulder.
Yes.
I mean, I can't even fathom picking that up off the ground, and he's working out with it.
He's ragdolling it.
Absolutely. Because we always see former players, you go, that guy could play. That guy could still play. I see Mel Blount to this day.
Man,
Mel Blount to this day from the Steelers decades ago. That man looks like he could strap it up and give you a series.
6'4" black cowboy just rolling up to you there with bad intentions. Not what you want here. The other one I saw, Dad, around here in Radio Row, the other former player that has obviously made a lot of waves lately was Cam Newton. Yeah. And I'll say this. I saw Cam Newton walking into Radio Row today, and my first thought was, I get why he said what he said about Brock Purdy. I get why he looks at the two of them and goes, we are not the same. We don't do the same, and we don't influence our team the same. Because all the discourse that we have around Brock Purdy, that is a tractor trailer that happened to play quarterback in the NFL. I will never forget my last preseason game with the Pittsburgh Steelers was against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Cam comes running out, and I remember hearing Ryan Clark talk about it years later going, that was one of those moments where I was like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this if they're making quarterbacks that look like that.
Just an absolute freak, the size that he was. And this isn't to take anything away from Brock Purdy and what he's done.
No, but I just get why Cam feels the way that he does.
Yeah, Cam was and by the way, if he out of football, it could be a model if he wanted to as well.
God,
I mean, probably just having it all.
Yeah, I mean,
incredible.
He was the NFL's most handsome quarterback for the entire time he was in the league, undefeated,
without
untied.
a doubt.
So that's the kind of energy we've got going right now here. Boots on the ground in Las Vegas, where again we're going to continue to be here all week. If you miss any of us, catch it wherever you get your podcast. We're 1 to 3 Pacific. We are 4 to 6 Eastern this week. The show from yesterday aired this morning from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. All the housekeeping stuff there, Dad. But we are marching closer towards the game. All this energy means we're getting closer and closer to this right now. The teams who have done most of their game planning last week are now just putting the finishing touches on this week, which means we get to start to look a little bit more specifically at this game. And we got props.
Prop bets.
This got you jacked up, man. You're walking around. My dad gets physical paper, and he's like a kid in the candy store here, and he's waving around the greatest gridiron prop list that DraftKings has put out heading up to this game.
I don't want stuff on the computer. I print out. Every day the show gets a rundown. I print it out.
Oh, and gets unbelievably frustrating.
Why is it frustrating? Why does it frustrate you? It doesn't affect you.
No, it does, because this is how it goes. We use a Google Doc to prepare for the show. The Google Doc's living and breathing, which means it can change at any time, and we update it all the time. And that means if anything changes after my dad has printed out this sheet, and we try and reference it, all of a sudden my dad's scrambling, he's yelling and getting frustrated with us because this isn't what's on the sheet, and I'm telling him the sheet moves, and he doesn't understand how that works, even though we've tried to set this up for you on your iPad.
The Google Doc is so long. I mean, it just never gets short, and everything never cleared away. I keep going through, and then everybody emails it, and the emails, there's a million emails. I'm trying to find the Google Doc in there. It's, come on.
That's why you've got your one sheet now.
It's so easy.
He's got one sheet.
Sheets of paper, okay? Make it so much easier. But that does cost me when all of a sudden I see a segment's going to be this, and we're going in another direction. I'm like, when the hell did that happen? They're like, look at the Google Doc. I'm like, oh, God.
All right, well, Dad, you've got your you got your IRL Google Doc here now.
So before we even get to the prop list, I saw a couple of these, and these are all, I always love these. So I believe Kansas City is wearing the red jerseys, right?
Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs are the AFC's the home team.
San Francisco will be wearing their white jerseys. Teams wearing their white jerseys are 16-3 in the Super Bowl since 2004.
Wow. I mean, that's a look good, feel good thing.
I mean, would that make you go, oh, I'm going to lean that way on a bet?
Well,
I mean,
no, because I'm not an idiot.
Okay.
But
so you're saying those that do are idiots?
Well, yes, they are. See, I tend to believe in more concrete analytics, like all the 13-related numbers that you gave me yesterday surrounding Taylor Swift.
Stop.
Those are the real facts.
If you had to make a nickel wager, would you use the teams wearing their white jerseys in the Super Bowl have won 16-3 in the last since 2004, or the team that's won the coin toss has lost 8 of the last 9 Super Bowls? Which one would you give more credence to?
So I would go the white jerseys, just because in this case it coincides with the team that happens to be the favorite. Like, it's total randomness based on how they alternate who the home team and who the away team is there. And so I got a pretty good shot with 2 good teams in the Super Bowl, just saying, oh yeah, the team that's in the white has a pretty good chance of winning.
So when you were a captain,
I was never a captain. Not in college, in high school.
No, high school. Well, whenever you were a captain, you got to call a coin flip. You know what? Whether you're playing Little League or in the Super Bowl, they do a coin flip.
I just felt like you did that to make me feel bad.
No, I didn't. Because what you did in high school is the same thing they're going to do Sunday. It's a coin flip. The only difference is you called it when it was in the air. Now you don't. Now you got to call it before because of all the things. What did you always call?
Tails.
I was always tails.
Tails never fails.
That's what I said as well. Always tails.
I just feel like once you have a saying associated with something, it's hard to go away from it. And honestly, that does feel like, because again, there's no actual rhyme or reason. It's a 50-50 like everything else. But it's just like the analytics conversation where once people decide you're supposed to kick the field goal here and take the points, then that becomes what we have to do, like tails never fails. So we've got that, and you can bet certainly on the coin toss result. Yep. You can bet on things like the Gatorade color, which we talked about with Stormy Buonantony the other day.
I didn't realize it's never been red.
Never been red.
That's amazing.
So red or other. Other seems like a pretty good bet on this, Dad. What are some other things that stuck out to you on this list here as we look at it now? For me, I am always going to point people towards the direction of the thick 6. A big man, any big man, an OT or a DT. I don't know why it says OT or DT. It should involve, I guess, a guard you could put out there. You'd have to put him in a tight end spot there.
It's usually an OT. They're usually the better athletes, right?
Big man touchdown, yes or no up there now. The jersey number of the first touchdown score, the over-under set at 22.5.
Ooh, I like that. But I'm still outside of the football things. Length of the national anthem.
Yeah, that's always a big one.
Is that... Now, and what I don't know, is that when the music starts or the singing? Well, it's basically the same time.
It's the first note.
The first note. Okay. Yeah. I always think that one could lead to trouble, don't you? Because the person singing it practices it and knows how long it is. So wouldn't they be able to dish that off to some friends?
I remember last year, they keep that under lock and key. Me and Brandon were at Super Bowl opening night last year in Arizona, and we walked up. One of the security guards Brandon had been talking to had been there the day before for the anthem rehearsal, and we were trying to prod her to get a little answer. Nothing. Wouldn't budge for anything.
Understood there.
We threw riches at her.
But how about the person singing it they know? You think they're going to slide that info to family and friends?
I mean, they could if they were good family or friends
members. You would think so, right? Okay.
Reba, I believe, is the one doing the national anthem.
Reba McEntire, right?
Reba McEntire.
Yep.
So
yeah, Post Malone is doing God Bless America, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jason Fitz is also going to join us later in the show. Obviously, background, former fiddle player for the band player.
And he has played the fiddle national anthem at events.
He has. And so I will be interested to hear his approach on how they usually evaluate this stuff as we look at that one, Dad. Any of the football ones stick out to you?
I like the odd ones. First team to call a timeout.
Ooh.
How about that one? I love that one.
I mean, Andy Reid gets some of the clock management stuff every once in a while. I wouldn't be surprised if it got to be him.
Either team misses a field goal. I like that one as well. And then you have like the total first half point. It's over, over 23.5. I don't know. I mean, you look at the game like Baltimore, where Kansas City went down and scored right away, and Baltimore seemed to take them out of their offense. But I like both of these defenses, and it is normally those first couple of drives where if there are scores, I always say, don't worry, everybody's going to settle in.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we're going to get these scores right off the bat. I'm almost leaning to the under on the first quarter.
See, I actually look at both of these teams and say because of the play callers that they've got, both of these great architects of offense who are great. When people talk about the opening game script for a game, you hear all the time, they script the first 15 plays. Usually within the body of those 15 plays, you're trying to throw a lot of different things at a defense to try and figure out how they react. Hey, when we motion this player, does someone run with him? How do they adjust coverage? If we burst out into this formation, if we start condensed and we get real wide, how do they adjust to all that? You're trying to get information, but you've got two quarterbacks that are both adept at making the right decision, even early on with that. And it's a lot for a defense to try and process. Dad, I'm sure for you guys, you come out there, you've studied a team on tape all week, and then you're getting a bunch of their best punches one after another right away. We usually see it takes defenses a drive or two to get their feet under
it. Absolutely does. That's why no matter how it starts out, well, we saw that in Detroit and San Francisco, right? Detroit came out and punched them right in the mouth, and it was like, okay, let's see what happens when they settled in. It took them into the third quarter to do it, but they finally did it. I like this one. First team in the opponent's red zone.
Red zone team there. Well, and that seems to me to be much more of a potential for the Kansas City Chiefs, given how they've had to operate on offense. Much more methodical, much more grinded out. We'd expect a lot of this in that game. I heard Mina Kimes and Dominique Foxworth were talking about the San Francisco 49ers are not a team that loads up the box a ton.
Right, exactly.
Meaning they tend to play with a lot of light boxes. They let their guys try and handle that. They're, and as of late, they have not, which is an invitation for the Chiefs to try and condense things down, run it down their throats. This 49ers offense, much more capable. And, Dad, I'm sure you've noticed this as you're getting ready for this game, again, calling it for Westwood One on the sideline. I'm sure you've noticed the San Francisco 49ers, much more of a big play offense, one of the best in the league this entire year.
They are, and I'll give you a little bit to chew on for that first one in the opponent's red zone. This past year, San Francisco's defense allowed 44 red zone drives, second fewest in the NFL behind Cleveland.
Wow.
So they don't let people in the red zone much.
Well, they didn't let that in the regular season much.
Right.
In the postseason, I want to go back. I'll have to go back and look at that and see what the last couple games. Just because people have been able to grind out a living on the ground for that.
Right.
I guess my thought process with this is I could see a world where the 49ers score big and out from longer than the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think are going to have to play this close to the vest.
Agreed.
Have to grind out long drives, and there's less big playability outside of really Travis Kelce.
Completely
and
agreed.
In a couple spots we've seen MVS, but they tend to hold those for some of the bigger moments.
Big playability, to me, goes to San Francisco. I can't believe that just happened. Playability goes to Kansas City because of Patrick Mahomes. But you're right. This is the other thing to understand about San Francisco. Basically, since Kyle Shanahan has been there, they have led the league or been second in the league in yards after catch.
Sure.
And that's not to say Brock Purdy just dumps little, side passes, little swing passes. He also airs it out more than any other quarterback downfield. But they do go with the swing passes, the slants, the bubble screens, and these receivers are and that's another thing about Brock Purdy when he gets ripped for being a game manager. There is a monster difference in throwing a slant, throwing a swing pass, and throwing it accurate enough to let your guy go for yards after the catch. How many times you see a swing pass out to a back and he's got to reach behind him and didn't just spin all the way around? Or a slant pass where a receiver's got to go back behind and stop his momentum.
Sure.
He hits him on the money to where they can continue for yards after the catch.
Enough to get over 5.5 touchdowns in this game overall. That's the number for total touchdowns in this game. And that's fascinating to me because when we talk about the game script for this game that favors either team, I think most people seem pretty unanimously in on, hey, if this game hits the over, and 47.5 was the over that we've been operating on for most of the week. I need to check and see if that's moved at all. But that's been 47.5. And I've always said, if the Chiefs are going to win this game, it's going to be on the under. It's going to be them being able to turn this game into more of a rock fight than we're used to, which is, it feels antithetical. It does not feel like anything we've ever said about the Chiefs before in prior iterations. But for the 49ers, if this becomes a track meet, this skews overwhelmingly in favor of them. We talked to Michael Lombardi about this early in the week. They were a great team during the regular season. We haven't seen their A game show up yet. But if both of these teams play their absolute best game at this point with their current roster, San Francisco's going to win.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. Look for a lot of motion in this game as well. Look for, Mike talks about the scripted plays in the beginning, and what an offense tries to do is basically, it's for the coaches up in the booth to look down and say, for the defense to say, okay, what are they running? So offensively, I think, especially from San Francisco, because they have so many weapons, you're going to see inside run, outside run, swing to McCaffrey, pass to try and get Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle all involved in those first couple of series to throw it out there to see how the defense reacts and how it's eventually going to settle in.
Yeah, more moving parts certainly for the Kansas City Chiefs defense than we're going to have with the 49ers, which has kind of been my beef with them, is it seems like it's been a very stagnant group. It feels like they don't change the picture a lot. And when you don't do that, you give the offense and the opposing team a great chance unless you to go out there and see what you're hitting. Like I've always said for offensive line, if I can see the picture clearly and the picture doesn't change post-snap, I got a really good chance to know where I want to go and how fast I need to get there. If the 49ers want to line up like that and their great players don't make great individual efforts, it's kind of the criticism we had for years of Mike McCarthy's offense, and we talked about this earlier in the day with Dan Marino in another conversation we were having off air about how, hey, when you're a great quarterback, you like the picture to be still. Because if you got guys that can make plays, you're confident in yourself to see everything well enough and get the ball to where it needs to go. If you've got players that aren't going out there and making plays in the 49ers, it has not been that consistent up in that front seven. Now all of a sudden, you're just making life so much easier up mentally for the opposing offense to try and digest.
Right. It's one of the things, to go into the weeds a little bit. You saw what Jordan Love did with Green Bay and what Matt LaFleur likes to do. Well, a lot of times, Aaron Rodgers wasn't a big fan of that. Aaron Rodgers liked a set. And he loved to take the play clock down to almost the end to the end of the play clock, because he knew by then the defense was going to have to show what they were going to do. And now he knew the defense. Where in all the bells and whistles of movement, it's another way to try and get your defense to show. If a guy goes in motion, does one guy follow him? Do they just roll the defense? Zone, man, is trying to figure it out that way. But Aaron was always a guy who liked to say, I want to just sit there, be in this, let me take it down all the way, and I'm going to know exactly what they're in. It's just different ways of finding out the same information.
It's kind of why, going all the way back to our initial conversation about Brock Purdy, the way that he's perceived as a quarterback, a lot of it is, hey, when you've got these offenses that have been built for guys like him, for guys like Tua, that have all these moving parts, it's perceived that that's being done to make life easier on them versus some of these other quarterbacks. And we've seen it with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy's offense this year. There's a degree of difficulty that becomes more impressive to people that are watching when all of a sudden it's, hey, you're just looking for a guy to get a one-on-one win, and then the quarterback's going to throw that thing through a keyhole and make it happen. That's why, really leading up to, I think it was the Buffalo game for Dallas, Dak Prescott was the leader in the clubhouse for a lot of people in the MVP race, because what him and CeeDee Lamb were able to do, what the rest of that receiving core were able to do with an offense that was much more stagnant than a lot of their peers, visually, I think, renders a lot more impressive than an offense like this where you can get a lot of wide open throws. You talk about Brock throwing accurately. It's also easy to do that when there's wide open green grass around a lot of the routes, the way that we've seen in the Shanahan, McVay, all the offenses that fall into this tree.
I'll give you the last prop that I like. Number of players to attempt a pass.
Oh,
it's at 2.5. So does another player, or does a quarterback get nicked and another quarterback have to come in and throw a pass? That becomes 3. Or is there a player like a Debo Samuel, somebody that throws a pass?
I mean, if Andy Reid doesn't have a pass play for Travis Kelce drawn up in the red zone of the Super Bowl with the year that he's had, then I feel like I don't know Big Red at all anymore. Those are some of the great props. We'll take a look at that and plenty more matchups heading into Super Bowl 58 as we roll on here at GoJo and Golic. Welcome back. The sights, sounds, and scenes, and a lot of smells out here in Las Vegas. But you know what? As much as anything this week, GoJo and Golic here on the DraftKings network right now, we are coming back here, and we are presented by DiGiorno. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. We got NFL wide receiver Kendrick Bourne joining us now, who's kind of emblematic of the weird weather we've been having in Vegas right now. Awesome bomber up top, shorts on the bottom. You got to be the comfiest man in Radio Row right now.
Yes, sir, man. I'm feeling good. Being able to walk around, a little free, still warm, so I'm balanced.
But Vegas has given us a little bit of the cold, wet early in the week. Now it looks like it'll be drier, but still a little chilly.
Yeah, thank God. I'm not being outside too much. No pools open, nothing. So it's kind of weird seeing it, but I'm just like, okay, we hanging out in the hotel inside.
I would say not the usual Vegas offseason trip that most NFL guys have in mind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It is not.
So it's funny, man. It's definitely different.
A little bit different. So listen, being around here now for you right now, free agent currently at the moment here, what is it like being back around the Super Bowl environment for a week, seeing a team that you're very familiar with in the 49ers back on the stage?
It's actually great, man. It's funny how, my career has resonated again with the Niners. So it's funny how I'm just back and kind of still have a connection with the team. I think that's the awesome thing about football. When you play for different organizations, obviously they gave me my first opportunity. So I want those guys to get it, man. And it's just good to be in this environment. And we'll see how they do.
So reliving the Super Bowl that you went through, what are the players like today is Wednesday of the, you had the bye week. So what went on in the first week off, and then what's going on today as the guys all get ready?
So I think it's kind of the same. So like Monday, it's kind of like a day off. Obviously, they might just get here, do some things, and then Tuesday is like another day off in a sense. So they're just getting acclimated. And Wednesday we practiced. I think Tuesday we took pictures and did all the media stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, they had us busy. So, and then Wednesday practice, Thursday practice, and then Friday kind of.
But the game plan was in though, right?
Yeah, game plan was in. So like they have that 2 weeks. So they kind of practiced that first week and then going into another week of practice. So they kind of know exactly what they're doing. It's just getting those finishing touches.
We always hear people talk about, hey, guys got to do a good job of managing the noise and all these outside things. But how difficult is it when you're in it all of a sudden to really try and block that out and focus on your craft?
Yeah, because when they do that whole little meetup between both teams there, they got both quarterbacks on stage. It's hard to ignore it. You're right in it. So it's almost just embracing it, I feel like, and enjoying it because it's rare, man. Like, I never forget coming out of that tunnel and just going out there to show our faces, and it was a great, time. And I just soaked it all in. So anybody getting overwhelmed as a player, man, just keep going and treating it the same. Don't get caught up, but also enjoy it and soak it in.
Were you able to sleep the night before?
I was.
Really?
So, yeah, like me, I like the limelight stuff. You know what I mean? Like
wide receiver, there's a shot.
Yeah, I'm a diva. Exactly. I don't mind. So, but there are certain players that don't work like that.
Sure,
so,
right.
Anybody that's like that, don't look up in the lights. Just focus on, however you do it, however you lock in, do that.
You mentioned wide receiver. In this offense specifically, Kyle Shanahan, so much of us talk about the moving parts. Take us inside that for what it takes to be a successful receiver in this offense and how guys like Debo and Brandon Ayuk have been able to do that.
That's a great question. It's just the buy-in. You have to want to block. So you see them blocking Jawan and all those guys, Debo, they're blocking. They're giving Christian McCaffrey lanes to run. So those little details make them the great team they are. If you don't want to buy in, like George Kittle, he's over here blocking D linemen, like putting him in the dirt and it's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Ridiculous.
Juszczyk blocking. He's pushing one guy and then going to the next. Those little details, they're all bought in. So that's why they're always competing for the championship, NFC championship, whatever it may be, because the buy-in is there.
Yeah, Kittle played at Iowa. They all know how to block. Stick their face right in someone's chest. Yeah,
and loving it, smiling.
Yeah. Every Iowa football player, no matter what position they play, is also part offensive lineman. That's just how that school is structured.
So,
and it's great.
Take us into the start of the game with Kyle Shanahan and the first couple of series, the script, and what he's trying to accomplish in that first series or two.
Establishing a run game. I was saying it earlier to my agent, like he has to establish a run game. In 2019 in the rematch, this the rematch, but the first one, we didn't run the ball enough. We didn't establish it, in my opinion. So the play action really wasn't there, the downfield throw. So if they can get those guys in Kansas City to step up on the play fakes and things, I think they'll play a good game. But if they can't establish a run game, it's gonna be tough.
It's interesting, Mike. The 2 times Kyle has been in the Super Bowl, once there and then in Atlanta as the OC, the running back never had more than, I think, 12 or so touches.
Exactly.
That seems like it's definitely going to change.
And Christian McCaffrey gives him that dynamic. And he had great run games back then, but now you got Trent Williams and the system. But he was that last piece to make that run game be phenomenal like it is.
It's going to have to be a huge factor. Both of these teams, some issues on the run defense. Looking across that other sideline, Patrick Mahomes and everything that he started to accomplish. That Super Bowl you're talking about, more on the front end of a lot of his success. But as you guys were getting ready for that week, what was the conversation about how you go about trying to limit a guy like that from being successful?
Just playing your hardest. It came down to who wanted it more. Who wants it more? Who's going to run to the sideline to push him out of bounds? Who's gonna do the extra inch? And that's really what the Super Bowl is. Like, it's crazy. So Mahomes you can't stop him. You can only tame him. So I think that was more the game plan of how do we make him one-dimensional? And then that one play where he threw it to Tyreek, 50-yard bomb was what we let him do, and that changed the whole trajectory of the game. So keeping him limited from making those throws, I think those things keeping him packed in, like not letting him scramble, because he can scramble. So you can't just rush him one side and he'll run out. So keeping that pocket closed in, I think it'll make it tough on him. So those kind of details.
Definitely wanted to get into your free agency, but because the schedule is so different, even on game day, how different we're so used to a quick halftime in the NFL. How difficult and interesting was that at halftime? And take people down inside the locker room at halftime where you have all that extra time.
Yeah, you're almost like warming up again. Like, you're getting re-ready. So you really have to stay hydrated. Eat. You can eat. You can almost have a lunch. a lunch. Not just sometimes you have PB&Js, but you can eat something. And it's just funny, man. It's a part of the glitz and glamour. It's a glorified game, so you can't get too caught up in, I'm feeling too relaxed, or that. It's almost like that's what they want you to do, is to get caught up in it. So whoever can endure those different battles, there's different battles besides the game. Whoever can endure those battles better, I think has the better chance.
Sounds like they had Uncrustables in the locker room.
Exactly. There's always got to be Uncrustables in the locker room.
Got to be everywhere.
So staple.
Great. So great.
Only a couple minutes left here, Kendrick, and we appreciate the time, man.
Thank you, guys.
Gerard Mayo takes over. You just left New England. What about him, being around him on the staff, makes you believe that he's ready for this moment?
I love it because, he played for Bill as a player. Coach for him. So he's seen, I feel like, a different aspect of Bill that people haven't seen. I think he's learned a lot. I think he knows a lot that people are underestimating. So I think he's younger. So he's going to meet with the young guys better in a sense and gel the old school vibe too. So I think he's going to gel it together how nobody else could, because his perspective, if they would have went and got an outside entity, it would have been different than somebody that knows past, present, future. So he has a good perspective of all of them.
Are you surprised Bill didn't get a job?
Man, I'm surprised. I'm hoping he gets on TV. It's going to be all right.
You think Bill can actually go and get in front of the microphone and do well?
I think he can do it.
So is he different behind the scenes than we
He's
get?
different behind the scenes. He's great, man. You remember when he put on the helmet? At the Army game.
Yes.
Took over the world. Just those little things. That's how he is. So, that little glimpse is really how he is. He's great, man. He's like... The ice was broken between us, so you have to build that relationship. He didn't like the media. That's just what it is.
Right.
But the fact that you can go up there and talk and do things like that says there's something in there that you can do that. So I think he'll be different on TV.
That's awesome.
It's incredible, man. So listen, you're getting started on your free agent journey here, man. What are you looking for here? What are your goals, and what are you hoping to land in as far as the next stop here?
I like that question. So I want the full bundle. I'm going on, my back end of my years. I want to play for a little more while. I feel like I got 5 good years left in me, but I want that full experience. I'm creating memories. Football is just that memory base. So it ain't all about the money for me, man. I've done right. So just being in the right place to where I can enjoy it, make money, just the whole package, build relationships with guys, and maybe find my next venture, in a place wherever it may be. So I just giving myself the best opportunity, working out, rehabbing my knee, those things, to give the team that picks me the best opportunity to be a better team.
Well, listen, career average over 13 yards a catch. You're going to help somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's going to dig that.
Thank you.
Definitely, man. Kendrick, we appreciate your time, man. Best of luck. We know someone's going to get very lucky when they scoop you up, and we're looking forward to watching you ball out again.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. We are brought to you by Bayer Aspirin, the official sponsor of Fans' Hearts. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., our thanks to Kendrick Bourne hanging out. Man, that guy's got a future in television whenever he wants to hang up the cleats.
You know what I liked about what he said, and I think players of today, and it's a smart thing to do, is to prepare for what's next while you're in the game. Because while you're playing, you're relevant to people. Once you end, unless you're that walk-in Hall of Famer where you're going to get a job no matter what, you'll get the opportunity, I should say. You know, if you try and start things after, it's a little more difficult. And you heard him say, you know, I still want to play for a while longer while looking for my next venture. It's such a smart move to do. And he said he didn't worry about money as much. I told him after, I said, dude, no, don't say that.
You want a lot of money.
Grab all the money you can right now, because by comparison to other things in the world, it's a short career, so do your thing.
I feel like Kendrick's our friend now, and we're not quite his agent, but we have his best interest in mind.
Exactly right.
Kendrick's going to cost you a lot of money. He's worth a lot of money.
There you go.
We'll certainly hear more from that here. We got a bunch of great stuff coming up again. Anthony Munoz going to be up next year on us, the Hall of Fame left tackle here. Dan Le Batard going to sit down with us here. Jay Glazer, Jason Fitz. But, Dad, in the meantime, I wanted to listen to someone talk their talk. This was incredible. So the Lions, obviously disappointing final game in the NFC Championship game. But overall, as you talked about the other day in some other conversation we had, you got to remember how this season was framed coming in. The Lions winning the NFC North was already huge in the development of this team from the time Dan Campbell took over. To get to the NFC Championship and having been in a position to win it, looking like the better team, they got a lot to be proud of. And Brad Holmes, their GM, decided he had the time to let people know exactly how he felt about all of this stuff. This was Brad Holmes, the Lions GM, at the podium deciding he wanted to go and pull some receipts from people that had been a little critical of their drafting. Take a listen.
When you look back at those picks, and those picks were not welcome by many in this room. You know, Dave, you wanted us to pick quarterback. You didn't want us to pick Penei Sewell. You know, people didn't want us to wait till the 4th round to draft a wide receiver. You guys didn't agree, but we used those picks wisely. But we had one extra pick in 2021. We had a comp third. That was Ife Melifonwu. Carlos, I know you said that was a miss. I'm not up here to give I told you so's. You know, I will say that I told you so was when we selected the player. You know, saying that, man, the Detroit Lions, they're very intentional, very careful and selective with their picks. And these are, but it's not going to get the clicks.
It ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. Oh,
wow.
I mean, so, Dad, how did you receive this? Because part of me looks at this and goes, you know what? We all spend our time up here in this chair giving out grades for things, judging picks and the immediate reaction, having a response to what we see them do. Part of me goes, yeah, you know what? Every once in a while, if these guys hear and internalize that, I get it. At the same time, it's also like, all right, Brad Holmes, if you want to be the guy that all of a sudden starts to be combative with the media, if things do go south, now all of a sudden a lot of that goodwill goes out the door.
Yeah, but you know what? We're all human, and we saw him let out his joy in the elevator when they were screaming and how happy he was. So that's human. You know, the GMs, the coaches, the players are not robots. They're human and they hear things. And his job is to create a team and make picks. So you're in the business, unfortunately, where people are going to throw darts at things you do, and they're going to do it publicly. So you can, you know, for the most part, you don't say anything because, in all honesty, you shouldn't care at all what the other people think. When you start worrying about what the fans think, you're sitting with the fans. But you're human. So if you hear it enough, and especially this organization, which has had no success, and now what they've built, and people still question that over the last couple of drafts, and he has the receipts right now to say, seriously, look at my receipt is a long receipt of good things we did. But you're right. It can come trip you up as well. Remember, Robert Saleh over the Jets said at one point he was keeping receipts. You know, so it can come back to bite you. But you look at the receipt list for the Lions, and it is one hell of a list for him on what he has done.
I think you hit the nail on the head. This is a very human response.
Yes.
So often over the years, we've been used to athletes, coaches, people in the front office saying, oh, well, we don't listen to what the media says. We don't have that on in the building here. And more often than not, we know it's a lie, especially in this day and age where there's just so many ways for that stuff to seep in. It is also a fun reminder, Dad, of how consistent the Lions are from top to bottom. They're a walking chip on their shoulder in that building.
Yeah.
Everybody, from players to coaches, clearly to the GM, all kind of feels the same way. Hey, it's Detroit versus everybody. Like, we hear that, but it's so lived inside that building, and it's why, regardless of some of the issues they ran into on the field, you do feel so good about the direction of that team because they are all pulling in the same direction. You've got a united front inside that building at every level of the way you need.
That's why I said I think John Lynch has the most pressure on him in this Super Bowl.
Sure.
And people have got to be like, wait a minute, they've had a lot of success. Yes, they have. Been to a Super Bowl, lost it, been to a couple NFC championship games, but every year we talk about their roster saying if they're not they're one of the top 2 most complete teams in the NFL. There's nobody, and then once they got Christian McCaffrey, nobody who has more offensive depth than the 49ers, but you don't get to stand up and, say, see, until you win the Super Bowl. And he's got that, unfortunately for him, that huge miss with Trey Lance where, it was about as bad as can be. When not only you made a bad pick at that point, but you gave up assets to do it and then never got any kind of production at all from there. So he had to come back from that. And quite honestly, from the talent standpoint, he has. But you don't get that praise until you put that brass ring on. And so to me, that's why he's looking to close that deal to say, all these picks, all these acquisitions has now worked for us to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, you've been able to build a roster up around these quarterbacks to give them that chance. But you're right, the opportunities few and far between, even for a guy like that to survive the kind of swing and a miss that he had. But that's what's at stake for a lot of these teams now coming up out of the draft. We saw Michael Penix Jr. over here before around our set. We know the quarterbacks coming up in this draft class. I thought this was interesting. Albert Breer talked to Cliff Kingsbury, and this is what he said Cliff Kingsbury had to tell him about Caleb Williams, who he spent time with last year at his time at USC.
Cliff loves Caleb Williams.
Okay.
Cliff said to me on the record that the comparisons between he and Patrick Mahomes, right, like all of that, he said it's eerie how similar they are. And Cliff, remember, was the one in 2017 who would tell everyone until he was blue in the face how Patrick Mahomes was much better than everybody thought.
I mean, Dad, a guy who knows them both very well, has seen under the hood of both of these quarterback prospects, and it's been the easy comparison, right, for Caleb Williams for a while because of all the off-platform stuff, because of the way he can get out. Hell, even the running styles are a little bit similar, but we know this could also be a tough label to live up to going pre-draft.
So we look at the situation now with Cliff Kingsbury in Washington, right? So everybody that has the speculation, if he loves Caleb Williams that much, Washington's going to jump over Chicago. Chicago's going to take a quarterback. Well, you know what? Chicago doesn't have to budge. And there's only certain ways that's going to happen. And the main way that's going, well, there's two ways. But one of the first ways is, what are Chicago's grades on the quarterbacks?
Sure.
If your grade on Caleb Williams is so far more than Jaden Daniels or Drake May, then nothing changes your mind. No, not any package Washington can offer you changes your mind. If the grades are close, then you obviously make it sound like they're not that close, and you try and get what you can get for it. Because if you have a Caleb Williams and a Drake May separated by a point or two, man, you play that game, you play that instrument.
You leak everything humanly possible that Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear, and that this Bears organization, and they're all in love with this guy, and then you try and see just how much
but that's
you
what
can
it comes down to, the grade. It nothing on the outside, nothing anybody says. It's all in Hallis Hall on what their grade is on the quarterback that they want to take.
And it's going to be a lot more based on what they find out peeking under the hood, talking to these guys personally, because I can say as players, the way I've perceived them has always been, and I said this during the regular season in college football, this conversation was going to be a lot more split than people thought it was, who just wanted Caleb Williams to be the number one guy. I do think it's even enough to where, man, if you're Chicago and Washington's really sold on this dude because they got Cliff whispering in their ear, you drive it up and you try and see, hey, can we prize some more out of this in a draft where we know the Bears are armed to the teeth with capital?
And Chiefs. 24-20 was the score, and Jimmy Garoppolo has this amazing golden opportunity to hit Emmanuel Sanders on the deep post and can't do it. And I think that quest for 6 just continues to haunt the 49ers as an organization. That'll live in my head, and that'll live in infamy in Super Bowl history for a long time.
Stormy's pain palpable there, as is the pain of the hungover masses walking around Las Vegas every morning when we get up out here. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., it's GoJo and Golic, presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. DraftKings official flowers for Valentine's. Someone who's always ready for the moment. Hall of Fame offensive tackle Anthony Munoz. He got to catch up with Dad and have a little conversation here at Radio Row.
All right, Moon, so listen, the individual accolades we know. We've known each other a long time, 13, 14 years in the league, all everything, greatest offensive lineman ever play the game. Though we're here at the Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls, you've lost both Super Bowls. So take me through that experience of making the Super Bowl and going through the process and getting to the game.
You know, it's my first one. You know, my rookie year we're 6-10. You can see us getting better, but, you know, a lot of people, hey, you're okay. So the next year we go 12-4. We have home field advantage, and we go to Pontiac. And we're playing a team that's basically coming through the same thing. Not a very good team. They're starting to win. They got a decent quarterback from your alma mater. I think his name's Joe Montana.
Yeah,
and,
heard of him.
Yeah,
heard of him.
Yeah, I heard of him, you know, when I was in college at SC. I heard of him, too. But so I think it was kind of a pick'em game, and we're playing and very easily could have won the game, but, you know, they had the big goal line stand. In that we had all the momentum going in the second half, and that kind of put a kibosh to that. And they kick a couple field goals late in the game, and they beat us. And then the second one, you know, again, I thought we had, you know, they had won a couple already, and I thought we were pretty evenly matched. And the entire game, our defense had kind of given a lot of yards, but not a lot of points until that last drive. And you know, I was asked earlier, how'd you feel? Did you think it was inevitable that they were going to? And I said, no, I thought we were actually going to stop them. And you know, 92 yards in 3 minutes. I'm thinking, you know, it looks pretty good, and sure enough, there they go. And, you know, Rice has a monster game, but he's not the one that makes the final catch. Right. It's John Taylor, who didn't have a catch all game. So, you know, again, it's that drive, that last drive, 34 seconds left, and we end up losing to them again. But you know what? You know, a lot of guys say, and I don't know, if I knew I was going to lose, I'd rather not go to a Super Bowl.
See, I was going to ask you that. I heard that as well. Someone said, I'd rather not go than go and lose, and I can't comprehend that. You either?
I can't either. Yeah. I just don't understand that. I mean, that's what I worked all off season, running and lifting in camp. You know, the 2-a-days, full pads that we used to have to get in the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl. Sure, you want to win. I'm as competitive as anybody, but to have lost them and say, no, I would rather not. Not me. Not me.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
So you have a lineman in this game, Trent Williams, who 14 years in the league, he's a guy who's going to walk into the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
But I got to talk to him the other day, and he was all wide-eyed like it's his first Super Bowl. I mean, and it's what you play for, the Super Bowl. So all the individual accolades, you know, compare that to actually getting to the chance to win the Super Bowl as a team.
Well, you know, it's interesting because we just talk about if I knew I was going to lose, I wouldn't. Right. Think about all the Hall of Famers that never got in the playoffs, let alone played in the Super Bowl. But that's so I can see where he's a little geeked about playing in the Super Bowl after 14 years in the league. And the guy's amazing. I mean, he keeps getting better every year. So those are the type of guys that, you know, I'm not saying I'm a 49er fan or
right.
But you want a Super Bowl for a guy like that. You know?
I know you're here on behalf of Toyota. We're going to definitely get to that because it's an incredible thing you're doing with them. So the game itself, because I never got past the divisional round, so all I hear is from people who played in it was like one of the first things was when you get introduced, don't trip. But how different is it for the game day of the normal prep you do in the regular season to that game with everything prolonged?
You know what? It gets prolonged. I mean, it gets long. You know, you figure you got 2 weeks. And then not only you have 2 weeks, but then the game starts in the evening. I hated night games.
Me too.
A lot of guys, I want to play Monday night. And I know you get rewarded, but that's
the
late.
first couple times it's cool,
It's
right?
cool.
But then after it just disrupts your
I'm usually
schedule.
sleeping by halftime.
Exactly.
But so I like getting up, eating a little bit, and then getting to the stadium. You're playing 6:30, so I'll never forget. Both times you're in the meeting room, you got the light. You're watching video. You've watched the same video for 2 weeks.
Right.
And Jim McNally, who I played my whole career for, my offensive line coach, turns off the projector. He goes, we know this forwards and backwards. He goes, let's just start visualizing how we're going to win this game. So we'd sit in there with the lights out. But, those 2 weeks, the first week is exciting because the media comes to your city and you're getting tickets for your family and making sure they're all taken care of. Then that second week, it's preparation. It's, hey, don't bother me with, traveling tickets. And then it's 2 weeks. And then you get to the game, and that Sunday feels like 2 weeks because it's so late. But, again, I wouldn't have minded, 7 of those long Sundays. Yeah.
How about like for your individual prep? I told you I talked with Trent Williams, so a guy who dominates people like you dominated people, but your greatness is because of the preparation as well on who you're going to play. So how did you go about not playing guys like me, who, but guys that were like top players and prepping for them?
Well, I can say I had a book on you. Because Houston, Philadelphia.
Right.
So I would have a book on whoever I was going to play. I had pages of what happened if I played them before, what technique I used, what happened. So then I wouldn't just have one pass set. And I look at guys at vertical set the entire season. I had 5 or 6 different pass sets. Okay, with Golic, I'm going to use A, B, and maybe E, eliminate the other ones. So when I start getting ready for you, I practice that all week. And I build confidence in what I'm doing against you. So then Jimmy would say Saturday, he goes, it's down, right? You're confident with what you're doing? I said, yep, I'm confident. So I knew going into the game what technique I was going to use against who I was playing with.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And then I knew what your best move was.
Right.
So I knew if your best move was inside, I'm not going to overplay you. I'm going to let you go outside because I know you want to go inside,
right,
and vice versa. So I would start picking targets. If I knew you had a great inside move, I wouldn't pick the inside chest pack. I would pick that little point on the Nike swoosh there, and that would be my target. By the end of the game, I didn't want to know what you look like because I wanted to be focused in on that.
Now, unfortunately, I would say, unfortunately for me, the book you had on me was a sentence long, and
I have it right here.
Said I get a playoff on this. So, and word is that, remember, I did this to you. I did that to him on one play.
Well, I think it's when you were going on your back and my head got stuck in your helmet.
That was it. All right, let's get to the very cool thing. Toyota, they partnered with the NFL last fall, and I know that they brought you in to help grow the game in the Latino community. So that's really very cool. So tell me about that.
No, I think it's really cool, and it's important to me that Toyota and the NFL, for over half a century have been partnering to really have experiences for family, iconic experiences and stuff. And when they asked me to be part of this panel here today, Deanna Flores, she's a championship flag football player from Mexico City.
She's got a gun arm. I've seen her throw. Yeah.
Marissa, who works with the NFL City, is to really grow the fandom, of the NFL and the Latino community. And even though I was born here, so I'm born in the United States, but my family was from Mexico, and they brought the culture to me. So that was always important to me growing up, to really try to be a trailblazer, be an example for younger Latino kids that, hey, you can do this. If it's the NFL, you can do it. As you know Max Montoya. We were on the same line for 10 years. He's from East LA, played at UCLA. I'm from, 15 minutes down the road. So the fact that, we are building this and it's become so big now, and I have a chance through my foundation to have camps where I have, 150 young Latino kids to teach them the game of football, teach them character and team building. I've been in Mexico City for like 8-9 years in a row prior to COVID to do the same thing. I've been in 30 of the 32 NFL cities doing the Hispanic outreach with the NFL. So very important that we do that. And, of course, flag football is becoming huge. A lot of people don't realize I was a product of flag football from 8 years old to 13. So millions and millions of kids are playing flag football, not only in the States, but in Mexico and around the world. And so any way we can build that, and I'm thankful that Toyota and the NFL are partnering with that. And hopefully at my age I can continue to contribute some of this as they continue to build this fandom in the United States and the NFL. As you know, they're all over the place.
Listen, one of the reasons why you're the greatest old lineman to ever play the game, but you're a better man for all these things you do.
So hey, always great seeing you, man.
Really
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
momentous occasion has finally happened.
Yes.
Everyone is buzzing around here. Dan Le Batard has been dragged out to Radio Row at the Super Bowl. Dan, did you ever think it would happen again? Did you ever think you'd be back?
It is funny that you say this because I have been sort of militantly against the commerce that this thing is for a long time while screaming about concussions, and I can't stop watching on Sundays. The only thing that brought me out to do this is the love that you two share. I wanted to come out here and tell everybody, I told your father more privately, what a moving joy it is to walk into our offices, see you guys on the televisions talking, and know the history of how he passed this down to you and would take no shame but honor in saying you now do it better than him because you learned so many things from him. Like, it is such a tribute to fatherhood. And such a tribute. There's no relationship like it that I have seen in public grow this way, and I'm just thrilled to be here with you guys because it's moving to me, genuinely moving.
We really appreciate that,
Dan.
but I mean, for years we watched you and your dad, though. I mean, which was so fun to watch. And then I'm not going to lie, I saw that, and when I first got to work with Mike, I certainly thought of those times as saying how great, as much as we mess with each other, you know, how great it is and to say, wow, you have a father-son relationship, but then you get to carry it to work and the fun you and your dad always had.
Oh, but more than that, because you've been a teacher to us in many ways. As someone who was Bristol bred and helped make ESPN strong, the way that you were treated at the end there hurt me on your behalf, and that your son would later say, I'm going out the door too, I've got bigger challenges with my life. It is hard for me not to be like impressed by the bravery of both of you in there, because you've never said anything bad, and you have every right to be hurt by what happened there, because you built the ESPN brand into what it was on the radio. Like, you weren't single-handedly responsible for it, but there were only two people who did it.
It does seem now, I know you haven't been on radio or in a while, but we're coming to an event like this, the amount of former ESPNers with the teammates that we all had, it's unbelievable now. I think the team of former ESPN havers would be pretty formidable.
But you guys have entered a new media economy. Who would have thought this, Mike Golic Sr.'s evolution at the end of the media game? DraftKings is the one with all the dollars here. Radio's shrinking. Like, you guys have the big room here. DraftKings bought its way to the top of the table, and they believed in the Golic name. But more than that, right? Because I'm telling you that I feel like that we're in a situation where you guys are representing something that you just don't see anywhere in the media anymore, where it's a father and a son just talking about sports, doing so smartly the way they would after being raised on 20 years of watching what sports television has been built into. And for DraftKings to be sponsoring that, it honors. I'm telling you, I hate that I overspeak this way because I know I'm yammering, but it moves me every day to see that my sports television has a father-son love coming at me just around sports. Like, it's a piece of art what you guys are making every day.
Well, we appreciate it. I mean, part of the reason we feel comfortable even making the jump is because we watched you guys do it also. Like, you've talked about all the changes that you've seen here. You were a big part of spearheading all of that, and now as you sit here back in this environment out at a Super Bowl, you guys are going to have the shows over at Circa. How have you felt and seen the shift personally for yourself, being in the forefront of a lot of that?
Okay, so this was interesting to me, and I wonder if you would appreciate this, because I don't know. Once you leave ESPN, it's scary for everybody. Right. It's such a protective safety net. I don't know how scared you were with self-employment. I was arrogant but moderately scared, but I believed in the idea that I can take 40 people and do this myself, or try to do it myself. 40 people I care about, work with them the way that I've seen you guys work, and see if I can build a company in there that feels good. And so to walk in to our guerrilla production team today, working on what the next 2 days are going to be, and they care, and they're happy, and they're gambling in Vegas, and they're having fun. They're thrilled to be around the Super Bowl, and now it's ours. Yeah. It's ours. It's not anybody else's. We build it for us. I mean, you guys did it the hard way in football, right? Like, you're a Nepo baby allegedly, but both of you had to earn it, like, with your hands, with your. You both are all broken because of what, because of how willful what willful apes the Golics have been for a long time about what the honor of football really is.
Right. But when you when you start something new, though, because I'm with you, it was scary to leave ESPN in that kind of cocoon, but I had seen others do it and succeed, certainly saw you do it and succeed as well. But not only at times leave and go somewhere else where you're hired, as you said, starting something new. When was there a point where you were comfortable and said, okay, we've done this. This is going to work, as opposed to the trepidation when you first started it?
I mean, if people know the history of how it is that we left, the last straw was the son of my mentor being let go without me being told. Right. There were other things there.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So at that point, it didn't feel much like in the way I had a choice like that. To me, that doesn't feel like something that you can do, and so I had to do it myself, and so I did, and so I have. But the short answer to your question is at home. I've gotten married in the last 4 years, and the strength that I have at home in support of who I am and who I try to be and how I try to care about people has made me love differently, better, changed me. And so I can only do things that are the hardest things, that are the most fulfilling things, to be the man that she thinks I am. That she thinks I am. I'd like to be the boss she thinks I am.
Yeah.
Is it part of why I've seen you, and forgive me if you've brought this up on the show already and I've seen it, dressing a lot different lately? You look sharp, Dan.
This is funny because everyone's accusing me of having a stylist, and I do, but it's just because she brought me anniversary clothes and birthday clothes, and I guess aggressively, I've been so aggressively skateboard as a fat 55-year-old skateboarder for so long that just wearing a jacket once in a while is really cleaning up.
It's nice. It looks good on you, Dan. You're cleaning up right now.
No, but your dad has gone the other way.
And
this is something that I've always bothered me about sports television. It's basically the only argument I had with Eric Rydholm in the production of Highly Questionable. Do I really have to wear a sports jacket? Like, I'm talking to my dad on television in a kitchen. Like,
that should all end, shouldn't it? I don't understand. I'm with you.
I thought post-pandemic we were done with it.
I did too. I thought it was going to be polos or just, pullovers or whatever, because I love doing that now.
He's got retirement figured out, right?
Oh, my God. Well, I mean, he's the one that did, and we all went through the pandemic and came out on the other side, and you've watched the phenomenon because it's been our friends. It's been Katie Nolan. It's been Mina Kimes. It's been Elle Duncan that all thirst after him because the fact that he decided to grow a beard for the first time in 30 years and continually shed weight.
Well, correct me if I'm right, though, if I'm wrong, though, Mike, because I would argue that what you're doing daily with your son gives you a youthful vitality that makes you want to stay around forever for your family.
There was, people always ask me about, how are the years at ESPN? So many years doing radio and doing TV there. And I said they were great. And obviously people look at the years with me and Greeny for all those years and where that show went. And I say it, and I rarely say it publicly because, I always want to rip him and say that's kind of our relationship. But the best years I had were the last three, when it was me and Trey and Mike. So I just was like, and it was also the pandemic. So we had a studio set up in my basement. So for basically the end of this show and for a while, at 6 every morning, we flipped on the microphone, and there's my kid next to me.
I wonder if he's thought of this way. Were you absorbing how much grace your father handled his exit with a measure of pride? Because I know how it can feel to be hurt.
Sure.
And he meant more to ESPN by leaps and bounds than I did, and he has never really expressed that hurt in a way that I've thought there's great honor in the grace that he's shown there, and I was just wondering if you'd noticed.
I noticed the way, and this was always, you brought up, the us as athletes mindset and the things that go into there. Nothing matters more than the respect of your teammates, the respect of your peers, and seeing that at the end, the outpouring from all of the people that had been touched in one way or another by his career and where there's intersected and the way he had helped them or a kind word somewhere. Like, all of that I noticed when that eruption came out, and you see your dad doing the rare thing, which is trend on Twitter for something good. It's very hard to do that.
But you now have your own audience in your 60s. Like, you've really have evolved in the media game in a way that wouldn't have been expected because you're following this happiness that you're talking about.
And my thought, and I equate everything to sports, and people always said, are you bitter? Let's talk about it. And I wasn't going to dive into it, because my thought had always been, when I was with the Houston Oilers and they cut me and I went to the Eagles, I didn't think about the Oilers anymore. I had to worry about the Eagles.
Oh, but this is why you guys were so much tougher than the people who are criticizing you from the press boxes, because of course that's the thicket you came up in. With like, you really think the end of my career they're not going to give me millions of dollars? Okay, I'm going to be hurt by that. I came from football.
Yeah.
You're given nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly. Well, it's honestly why I think about that a lot when we see like things pop up, like what happened with the Washington Commanders and them trying to come out, and there's that article where it's trying to paint Ben Johnson in this bad light, where you're right, they're focusing on their ex as opposed to the one they're with, when it's like, I have no choice but to pour all my energy into this thing that's right in front of me, or it's not going to work. So I do think that there's a lot of it that comes with that. Thank you. We appreciate all the kind words
really
on that behalf, Dan, for making the trip out here for a week. I don't know, like aside from this, which we do appreciate, is there part of you that is excited to be around this? Like, how do you feel about this environment?
It's an order to do things like this, to tell people how I feel and to share with them something that is representing a party for my company. We're coming out to the Super Bowl and we're throwing a big party with a couple of shows just because they've been working for 2 years really hard on startup. And so let's burn some money and have some fun and see if we can do something that's a little bit different, which is what we're always aspiring to do.
No, certainly you guys have always done that very well.
So I'm wondering for you in this grand scheme, because one of the easiest questions is always going to be, you and I have been doing this for a long, long time, and we know what gambling always meant to the league, to all of a sudden see a Super Bowl in not only a Super Bowl, but we had a draft here, we have pro teams here, and just the evolution of everybody hated sport. We can't go near Las Vegas to, oh, wait, we're going to get billions of dollars? Hey, guess what? Las Vegas is pretty cool.
I mean, we can be a sports advertisement right now for DraftKings, the biggest and the best. They are supporting the ability to do this in this city. 8 years ago, the commissioner of the league would have been horrified at the suggestion. 8 years ago, when we were asking Kaepernick questions, asking somebody to lead and you didn't get leadership, here he was waiting to follow on gambling, and he followed gambling, and now they've got it in the city, and they've got to police it everywhere because athletes are competitionaholics. Yeah. Some of them are going to want to raise the stakes on things, but the gambling money makes it so that the father-son relationship can exist now and makes you very happy and might make you happier. I'm not sure who would win that, but it is the highest compliment when your father says that the last 3 years are the happiest of his career when you look at what his career in this business has been.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Have not taken that lightly. Don't take the responsibility lightly, certainly, as it pertains to all of that. But you're right. It is a testament to the times that this is what helped create the opportunity for that. And so watching that through that lens, the other thing I really wanted to talk to you about, Dan, is what's gone on with everything around the game now, because you've got the Kelsey brothers in a world and helmet sports that have become larger than life. You had the Taylor Swift factor injected into all of that. And we've seen the response that part of me still feels is predictable. I wonder how you internalize, someone who's covered this a lot longer than I have and been around it longer than I have, how you've internalized her place in this world now alongside these two brothers that have become the face of the sport.
I mean, this is fascinating, right? We saw for how many years the old quarterbacks are the ones in the commercials. It's Peyton Manning, it's Tom Brady, it's Aaron Rodgers, and politics change and things change and the league changes, and now it's not going to be quarterbacks. It's going to be a couple of brothers, and you know, these quarterbacks are always white except for occasional yogurt commercials. And all the broadcasters are also white. It's Romo and Aikman and the voices for the future and Brady. All of these things that are happening in front of us. You're watching a commercialization of I don't know if you guys watch football this way. Forgive me, because I don't want to do a rambling monologue here. But for this league to have had the last generation of everything it's had, concussions and ethical dilemmas, and it gets bigger and bigger and better and better, and Ray Rice was honored recently at a Ravens game, and like this sport isn't politically. It's not a leader.
Sure.
And it wanted women as fans. And it's commercial because mothers needed to put their boys in the pipeline and keep feeding the machine. They now have the women.
Sure.
They got the women with the best thing. Football wins. Football always wins. I can fall to my knees lamenting the moral decay. But this was a fast forwarding to girl fans in the sport who think it's the most normal thing in the world to get in the Super Bowl after 3 months cheering for your man.
That's the one thing that's got to drive Stugatz insane, is watching this new group of fans come in and immediately be handed the keys to the best and nicest car and think that all of them run this way, when in reality, and I know some people have joked about, and listen, the obvious answer to the reaction to most of this has been good old-fashioned misogyny. Like, there are just a lot of people in the NFL's core fan base that really don't like women in their space, but I have heard some people point out, I think it might have been Mina Kimes that said, it's like, oh, you think it's just this easy? You come in and everything's just great and you get to root for the best guy all the time.
Yeah, I love some of the thoughts that have come of that. But you mentioned so many of the things the NFL has gone through. Is this machine, is this a not a good word, undentable?
I mean, what can dent it? You tell me. The player died on the field.
Yeah.
We canceled the game. I asked the question sincerely. I think it would take multiple players dying on the field in order to get there. And they would have to be the really important players.
Yeah.
The numbers the uniform numbers.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's that.
Well, but I mean, this is the moral conundrum. We're also at the center of the spectacle, and it's a great party, and everyone loves it, and everybody will be watching Sunday, and we all toss aside. I mean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Dan, you watch and cover the sport like the rest of us. I mean, maybe with a little bit more moral reservation than maybe a lot of the rest of us that played it or have been around it in those ways, but
the politics didn't come to the sport with Kaepernick.
Sure.
And now this is an invented political situation where Taylor Swift is with the Pfizer boy because we can make politics of everything. And so I would have preferred to have the arguments about, like we were in the 60s with the civil rights movements, where they were more graceful than this, where they weren't this stupid.
Yeah, they are. They've gotten extraordinarily dumb.
But you don't want women around football. Why?
Yeah.
Because you hate women? Like what?
Exactly.
Why? But why?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want more people to enjoy this thing? You think it's really rare heirloom that only you enjoy? No, you and all your male friends enjoy the thing. Why? You don't want Taylor Swift dancing at the game? Like, is it emasculating? Like, is most of America watching that? Are American males watching that and saying there's something emasculating of having this femininity around my game?
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, even forgetting the male fans, but some of the people in our industry, males, who are not really keen on this. I'm like, dude, drag your knuckles on black to the cave. You know, what are we doing here? I don't understand why women can't be involved.
I think a lot of this, and we see this happen all the time, it's whenever people have their little niche and they feel like they know a lot about this, and all of a sudden the thought that someone else could come in and have either a knowledge that's equal to or greater, or just like it in a different way than they do, all of a sudden either makes their thing feel less special or makes them feel less secure about the handle that they've got on all of that.
Look, I understand as someone who saw Mina Kimes' ascent.
Sure.
I remember how it felt as someone who had confidence in the industry. I had an assessment of what a quarterback was, and she sliced it with 7 different metrics that made my opinion immediately wrong. And I could fight her, or I could be like, whoa, that was kind of amazing. That you know a great deal more about football than I do, and I'm a bit of an idiot to think that you wouldn't, just because you're new to this game. I imagine. I don't know whether would you say that Mina knows football better than you know football?
Oh, there's a lot of aspects of it that she does. Like, I know my little world in offensive line play and can help there, but as far as like the overall view of the sport,
game is expanded to what we look at, and I've always say analytics is like an F word in sports. Analytics is just information. I mean, we had analytics when I played. You looked at a game plan, there were analytics in there, but it was information. We digested the information, and then we decided how we use it. That's all it is today. It's more analytics, and we just should digest it and decide how we want to use it. But everybody's hung up on that. She is infinitely smarter than us about all of football as a whole.
And to that point, these have all created new avenues. Taylor Swift has created a new avenue. All these 4 people like Mina Kimes who have all of this knowledge and all of this stuff to give, to find and access the game that for so long felt like it only belonged to this certain group of people. And that to me has been the best part of it. And the best part of this is we could keep doing this all day, Dan. We don't want to keep taking up this much of your time. We appreciate all the kind words, man.
It's a genuine pleasure. I want your audience. Your father has an audience. They see who you are. They see what you did. You have an audience. There are people who feel like they know what you're about. Your father comes from the most intimate of mediums. It's radio. It's friends in your head. He was there for them every morning when they were driving to work to an unhappy job. He took them away for 45 minutes just arguing with Mike. Like, you have a real real gift here in front of everybody to be able to do this, and it honors me to be here with you. I'm sorry that I was so effusive about it. It embarrasses me, but it's genuinely moving to me to see you guys doing what you're doing.
We appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic, brought to you by Bayer Aspirin, the official sponsor of fans' hearts. And guys, remember, all week long, DraftKings is going to feature a new happy hour boost that's going to be live from 5 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We are in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour, so our latest happy hour boost is now live on DraftKings Sportsbook. You can bet Isaiah Pacheco and Brandon Ayuk to go over 50 scrimmage yards each, boosted to plus 100. Tune into GoJo and Golic every weekday this week to find out about the new happy hour boost. And we are joined now here on GoJo and Golic by Fox NFL insider Jay Glazer, kind enough to hang out with us now. Always wheeling and dealing. Jay, I know you're going to be a busy man this week. How you doing?
Going crazy, man. Doing all right, man. You can hear my voice. I've been going out since 5:30 this morning. So.
Oh, my gosh.
You're a grinder. We know you're no stranger to that, Jay. And we know part of the reason you're here and around today, obviously, you've been a massive mental health advocate around the NFL for a long time, talking around here about your journey and diagnosis with ADHD and just why this has always been so important
ADHD,
to you as a mission.
We got anxiety, depression, bipolar. I'm tripolar. We got ADHD, got it all. And, I just kind of always looked at it like, look, God blessed me with the ability to communicate. Football gave me the platform to talk about it. But I just saw too many of our dudes and too many of my friends kind of go by the wayside and not talk about it, not open up to each other. And the more I was able to open up and talk to people about it, I've been on over 30 antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, and none have worked. So I've always had to try and find other things. And like every morning for me, I wake up, I don't know who I'm going to get, sky's falling, and I know my life is great. It is, but between my ears, it sucks. And it gets me to do stupid things like, hey, I'm going to go fight in a cage. And, I'm going to let Chuck Liddell kick me in the face. Hey, Randy Couture gets to slam me every day. So I'm off. And I finally, with the ADHD part, I finally found something that helped me called Kelbry. And I was the first people don't know this. I was one of the first ever adults diagnosed with adult ADD on the East Coast of America, 1989. Wow. So back then, man, they put me on Ritalin, and then this is my experience. So I'm sorry, but man, the peaks and valleys were not good for you when you have depression. For me, then they put me on another drug to stop the valleys. Then they switched to Adderall, and that was really bad for me. And so I've kind of got off everything, and I finally found something that helps me, Qelbree, which I actually take at night. It's a non-stimulant, and gets the roommates in my head talk a little bit better to each other at night, calm down, and I'm able to be a little bit more focused in the morning. But also, I wrote a book on mental health a couple years ago. Someone wanted me to write a football book. I'm like, I'm not going to look over my shoulder for the rest of my life with all the stuff, secrets I have.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But how could I be of service? Because that helps me a lot. And by me, I just want to give it words. Like, I'm not your doctor. I'm not your teacher. I'm not your therapist. I'm not clergy. I'm just a dude who's really messed up, who's learning how to be good with his messed upness. And the more we can start talking about it, especially us dudes who think that, we're not supposed to show it. You're not supposed. And which, by the way, like you guys have known, I've trained 1,000 pro athletes in mixed martial arts, football players, fighters, basketball, baseball, and half of the people, I am the problem where I tell guys, don't show it, neutral face, don't put your hands on your hips, don't ever show it to me, don't ever show me you're hurt. And here I am saying the opposite in life is like, man, when we're hurting, man, make sure we lean into each other. Make sure we start talking to each other. And like, mental health is so reactive. I've talked to a few teams about it in the last 2 years. I'm like, physical health, you're not only benching when you think you're getting weak or running 40s when you think you're getting slower, catching passes, you get the drops, you're always doing it. But you all only talk to a therapist when the sky's falling and it's too late.
Yep.
And there's probably not enough therapists out there for us yet, but we're each other we can be.
Absolutely.
So lean into each other and think of how close you will be as a team and how much more that'll lift us up.
I think in a lot of things, not just what you're going through, but what others are going through, especially on the men's side, it can be where just what you said is you're afraid to let anybody know. So I love that part of it. There's the medicine part of it.
They think it's a weakness. It's not a weakness. Like that makes me, my vulnerability makes me strong. And again, no one's questioning your manhood. No one's questioning yours. No one's questioning mine. So we can talk about it.
Yep.
No one's going to call. And by the way, no one's called me a wuss. No one's told me to suck it up.
Yeah.
And I'll give you guys a quick story. Like, you guys know my best friend is Michael Strahan. I call my baby sister. And but for 30 years, I didn't say anything to him. And when I would have issues, I would take Vicodin and a bunch of drinks and go out and let these fly. And who knows what happens? And wouldn't be good. And I'd get him in trouble, me in trouble. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago, I was supposed to go to dinner with him. And I said, man, I can't go out tonight. First time I ever said I can't go out tonight. The beast just got out of the box. And he said, you want me to come over? And I said, no, not tonight. I kind of got to sleep this one off. And when I have a real bad depression or anxiety attack, I feel it on the left side of my gut. I feel it in my joints really bad. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. And it's exhausting. It physically exhausts me. And he said, you want to talk about it? I said, I do, but not today. And he goes, why have you never talked to me about it? I'm supposed to be your best friend. And I said, like, I don't make up the rules of this thing, man, but for whatever reason, I felt ashamed with you. He said, yeah, but you took away my chance to be your best friend for 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And that day, I'm like, I'm never going to keep this to myself ever again.
Yep.
It's that trust amongst teammates that's so central to what we all do that needs to extend to this area the way it extends to all the other places that we trust each other in life. So, and Jay, I know you've helped a lot of other guys, a lot of guys, especially around this sport and others, find their way to this journey to a point where they can help heal. So always want to say thank you for being willing to do that. And it's also allowed you to have some interesting conversations. I saw on your podcast, you got to talk with John Lynch kind of about how all this intersects with the way that he's gone about building this roster, building this team. What did you take away from hearing the way he's approached team building with a lot of this in mind?
Yeah, so Lynchy's actually one of the guys who started coming to me early when I started talking about it, saying, hey, help me out where my player is thinking about this, or what's my player, like just wanting to know how to deal with that. Because I had to talk with a coach recently, and I said, hey, you got to understand, man, these guys are all looking up to you as this male authority figure in your life. And a lot of times, look at anybody on this level is crazy.
Yeah.
We're all crazy going in, right? You can't be great and not have crazy in you, right? So a lot of times, I say, man, when you come in there and you're in this piss-ass mood and all, a lot of your players think they're the reason. They're the ones that upset you. And this one head coach is like, it wasn't that. It had nothing to do with it. It's like the GM. I'm like, yeah, but they don't know that.
Yep.
So you have to, I want you to start thinking about this. So Lynch was one of the guys early on who started saying, hey, how do we handle this? How do I handle that? He and Sean McVay were probably the two right out of the gate saying, tell me more about this. I got to understand this. It's going to help me more. And I was also telling him, like, bro, it's not just your players. Man, it's your people in your cafeteria. It's your scouts. It's your secretaries. It's everybody. And, like, listen, I talk about it. My expertise is not from schooling by any chance. Mine is my suffering. But you don't have to have clinical, which I have in all 4 categories. But, man, this right here, like, this makes us think our lives suck. We compare ourselves to everybody else's filtered highlight of the day. Like, that's a fraction of a second. How are any of us supposed to think our lives are good? Or you're getting murdered on Twitter. And, like, when we got our ass kicked on the playground growing up, that sucked for a month. Now it's happening 10,000 times a minute. Yep. And it's just, how do you get away from it? So we're all going through something. And that's why we got to, like, I want us talking. I want us bonding. Now, like, when I'm having a bad issue, I'll wake up now and I'll call 4 of my boys and say, hey, man, this is going on. And now doing this work, too, I'm engaged to, man, I love my life. I'm going to get married in May, and she knows how to handle it better because I've done this work. But I'll also call 4 other people and just not tell them anything that's going on and just check up on them.
Sure.
And that's that bond. But being of service, like, really helps me and helps, build that team a lot more for me.
Staying on the John Lynch thing, we only got about a minute left, is I had said, and do you think he may, in this game, have the most pressure on him because of the team? We always say they have the best team front and back in the league, but they haven't gotten to the top of the mountain yet.
Yeah, I think without a doubt. When one team's won it a couple times and the other team hasn't, absolutely. And I don't know who has more pressure, John or Kyle, but I know both of them have the same type of anxiety when it comes to it. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
And by the way, the Lynch interview, and we now call it, I call Unbreakable now. It's not a mental health podcast. I call it Mental Wealth, because all this stuff builds up our mental wealth. And I think that mental health people think we're only talking anxiety and depression. No, it's all the things we've done in our journey to get to where we are, to be successful. Adversity is a gift. How do we get through stuff? But Lynch's story you'll hear on this, like, this dude was the second pick in the Marlins organization.
Right.
Threw out the first pitch ever for the Marlins. Edgar Renteria, great baseball player, lived on his couch. He was a 16-year-old from Columbia. They wanted him to live with Lynch because they thought Lynch was a grown-up when he was 18 going to Stanford.
Wow.
Right? And then, like, Bill Walsh convincing John Lynch that he could be a Hall of Fame football player when the guy wasn't even starting. And, like, his story is amazing.
That is
it's
amazing.
It's incredible story, as is your, Jay. We appreciate all the time and testimony, man. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of the week here.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
See you, boys.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic, live over here at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center here. Radio Row, it's Super Bowl 58, it's Las Vegas, and we are presented by 1-800-Flowers.com, DraftKings official flowers for Valentine's. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., happy to welcome in our buddy. You hear him on our show all the time, Yahoo Sports' very own Jason Fitz. What's going on, Fitzy?
Woo! Just kicking the air. I'm excited to be hanging out with you two boys.
I'm surprised you can kick. You actually wore sweats today instead of his normal round of incredibly tight jeans that he can't function in.
These are my joggers. Like I'm a joggers guy now.
I'm just stunned. You're sitting on the couch and your feet don't hit the ground. What's going on?
This is what happens when you're a wee. You know what? I got a compliment earlier. All right, somebody may have told me that I was taller than they thought.
Really?
Oh, God. Who, if anyone on our staff told Fitz that compliment? He's already walking around this week. Jason Fitz is a lifelong diehard Raiders fan. He loves Las Vegas. This is his hometown. And he's already been peacocking around the joint. But his latest thing that he's gone around telling everybody, Jason, who's been on a fitness journey, he's been trying to bulk up, has been telling everyone that he's gained 1.5 pounds in each leg.
Wait. I've been telling you that I gained 1.5 pounds of muscle in each leg. And here's the real thing. This is what we need to drill down on. I know this because I go to Orange Theory, something you gentlemen know a lot about.
Yes.
And at the beginning of the Transformation Challenge last year, you stand on this scale, and the scale gives you your body comp. And then this year, I stood on the scale again as we started Transformation Challenge. I got that information. So, knowing that you guys know the Orange Theory process particularly well, I was stunned when Junior looked at me and I said I put on 1.5 pounds of muscle in each leg and said, how would you even know that? Well, how would I know that, Orange Theory? Shouldn't you be supporting the Orange Theory journey as a family?
Yeah, the Transformation Challenge is big. You are exactly right. You do step on it. It's not an actual regular scale. It does the body competition.
It's got like a motorcycle
thing. Listen, you've been texting us for a while how that has kind of changed your life, and that's been a pretty cool thing because you really have been a 98-pound weakling most of your life.
Yeah, you're a very small little weak fiddle player.
Now you're
ass kicked by everyone.
Now you're 105-pound mid-sized, not so much weakling.
By the way, I'll have you know, in the last year, I've actually gained weight and I've cut my body fat substantially.
And that's the sign of something working, in all honesty. And I'm very proud of you. I really am. Good for you.
I am yoked. I'm basically ready to play football. I stood on the field at Allegiant Stadium on media night, and I realized that Max Crosby and I are basically the same.
Boy, all right.
Is this segment over yet?
We're going to get away from that. Jason, we got some interesting news during the body of this show today. I think the worst kept secret in the world that got announced, Nick Saban going to go full-time working at ESPN, going to be a part of College Game Day there. You obviously worked around College Game Day a ton during our time at ESPN on the digital show in the lead up there. You've seen Nick Saban's role in college football and starting to morph into this. How do you think this is going to go?
I think this is amazing, and it's perfect from all sides because everything Nick Saban does, he does at the highest level. We know that, right? He's also an entertaining guy. I think what really shook me was the first time you, me, and Mina were in studio, and we interviewed Saban. And
that's right.
Yeah. And so, I asked him when he celebrates a win, and he said flippantly, he's like, there's no time to celebrate. And I made the joke. I was like, well, Mike and I have a good show. We celebrate for a day. And he said, every day that you're celebrating, somebody else is working harder than you. And then he just gave me this glare and a wink, and all these things happened.
The slickest wink I've still seen to this day.
I think that Nick Saban, not only is he the face of college football for an entire generation and so wildly respected at what he does, but he's funnier than people realize. So I think it's a perfect dynamic, especially because that show at its core, when you get to know all the guys on it, they love college football, right? Like they live, eat, breathe college football. So I think that's a huge part of why that's going to be.
Do we think that in his contract ESPN will have to provide the oatmeal cream pies?
Have to. That's got to be the easiest part of the rider. Good for everyone else.
The double stacked as well, because that's the way you go.
And the oatmeal cream pie, by the way, is a delight. I'm all in on this.
Phenomenal.
I have controversial food takes, as you well know. I have nothing but positive things to say about the oatmeal cream pie.
It's the greatest.
I can take all of them.
It's the greatest thing. So what's interesting, the two guys that are done coaching, and one for good and the other at least this year, that's Bill Belichick. We all thought, boy, what if they get it? If Belichick does now a year in TV, we figured Saban was. But you hear Saban in the pressers, and I mean, he gives some great talk. His company's hiring him to give a speech.
Yeah.
talk about getting your money's worth. But there was always the, man, could Bill Belichick do it? Because you see the way he is to the media. We had Kendrick Bourne here, who has been in New England the last couple of years. He emphatically said this guy, that Bill Belichick would be great on TV. He said what you see in the media is nowhere near what he really is. So, and we all think Bill may jump in front of the camera for a year, and he thinks he'll do a great job.
I think that's a win for everybody, right? Because anytime, and this is in a moment of sincerity, I think the coolest thing for me about ESPN was that I got to work with so many people that played the game at the highest level. And if you're willing to just shut up and listen, you can learn a lot from those people. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that ESPN offers, is so many people that have different life experiences and that played at the highest possible level. So I love that. I love the opportunity to sit there and learn something from Bill Belichick. And where I think that can stand out is on any broadcast. When he comes in and breaks something down, people will listen. And that's part of what Greg Olsen has done so stinking well. Like, I think that's what guys can do that really helps.
I think for Saban and Belichick, we're all hoping for the coaching megacast with those two on it. Obviously, they've got the friendship there, and what they could offer would be great. But it fits part of the conversation around these two guys, and it expands into some of the current hiring cycle now. We saw the reports yesterday, Chip Kelly interviewing for the offensive coordinator position in Seattle, Jesse Minter heading to follow Jim Harbaugh to the Los Angeles Chargers, and we've seen other college head coaches making the jump to the NFL. A lot of people have been trying to doomsday prophecy this, saying it's a sign of the times and a reaction to the current state of college football. Do you buy into that?
No, I think coaches have networks, and they love each other, and they get to know each other. And just like we, no matter where we've all been, we've enjoyed working together. I think we have to remember that exists some for coaching. Like Harbaugh bringing people that he's comfortable with makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know, if you're Chip Kelly, you look around and you think, man, how do I stay around the game at the level that I think I can be the best of who I am? Maybe that's just not what college. Like, everybody wants to make name, image, likeness this huge thing that's just destroying the game. I don't buy that. Like, is it changing the game? Yes. Will it cause some people? Maybe Saban didn't want to deal with that, and that's fine. But at some point, the sport's going to have to find the next anyway. The next Saban is going to have to rise. So I think what name, image, likeness is going to long-term present is an opportunity for coaches that understand. Look at what Deion's done. Win or lose, look at what Deion has done.
I'm very interested, though, in Chip Kelly, because we all saw when he went to the Eagles, when he ran that offense he ran, and initially it was successful, and then it went by the wayside, of how he'll come in with his attitude into the NFL now.
I do think it's interesting, and you and I got to talk to him a while back, and part of it, and Jason, you saw this in college with him, is the way he evolved at UCLA in the last few years, especially with Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Charbonnet in that backfield, and the proliferation of tight ends he had available to him in recruiting. Greg Dulcich, a guy who ended up in Denver, he said, hey, I had all these tight ends available to me, so why don't I run more of those sets? Why don't I make more use of the ground game? I had a lot of this pin and pull, ground attack, run stuff, and so I do think he is coming back to the NFL as a guy who's got a reputation in those circles for one thing, but those of us who watched him go through this journey in college see a guy who has grown a lot and can be more than just that one thing.
I think that's where coaches can become the best. And the analogy I've used with you guys before is I want a coach that is like on the TV show Chopped. You open the basket of ingredients. This is what I have to cook with. I'm going to make a great meal. I think that's what great coaches do. Even Chip Kelly would have to admit that in his first iteration, he wasn't looking to cook with anything. He was looking to be very specific about wanting to make a certain thing a certain way with certain ingredients. UCLA not being as talented at some positions, not having the depth at some positions, forced him, I think, to be a better coach in that situation. So
two more things. You mentioned at ESPN you got to work with people who you learned so much from. When you worked with Mike and I, were you in awe?
Just beside yourself.
I was in awe that you ever even got to the NFL. No idea how that happened.
Cut the camera, play the music, and ignore the screams that you hear from Jason Fitz.
All right, the other thing is, who do you like in this game, and give us a score?
I'm done betting against Patrick Mahomes.
My dog.
And look, I said to somebody earlier, Tom Brady was great in the grand scheme of things of catching you when you make mistakes. Mahomes is great at making you make mistakes. And I think that's just a difference. As talented as the 49ers are, I think that Mahomes is an alien right now, and he's on fire. So I think Mahomes leads them to victory, let's say 27-21.
I've been pretty impressed by what an even split it is
really
this week.
has.
I came in very worried that we were all going to be riding this Chiefs wave now, and it's going to make me feel very smart when they win because so many of these people overthought this and picked the 49ers.
So we're smart?
Check out Jason Fitz at Jason Fitz on Twitter, doing great work at Yahoo Sports, wearing very flexible pants. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, boys.
finish off the show the way we always do. This, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you off on into the rest of your day. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and check us out here live Monday through Friday. This week from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. The show re-airs 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern the next day. And if you miss any of our great guests, and man, we got a lot of them this week here. Our thanks to free agent wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, who joined us earlier in the show. Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz, Dan Le Batard from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gotts, NFL on Fox insider Jay Glazer, our buddy Jason Fitz over at Yahoo Sports. If you missed any of them, get them wherever you get your podcasts or available on our YouTube channel as soon as we get done here. We are presented by DiGiorno. It is not delivery. It's DiGiorno. All right, let's get to this, that, and the third. We had a cool opportunity yesterday, Dad. You might remember this, for the people that don't. Back when we were working on Golic and Wingo, in the wake of the Cody Parkey double doink kick from the NFL playoffs of the Chicago Bears, I got sent out on site to go and be a part of an event over at Goose Island, out in front of their brewery. They were having people try and recreate that kick on a small patch of turf out in front of that grass. I embarrassed myself in front of a crowd of people. It was horrific.
For getting embarrassed a lot in front of a crowd of people, you embarrassed your family name. Which I gave you.
I did. I brought shame upon our house. And so yesterday I got a chance to go up to the NFL Experience here in Las Vegas with 18-year veteran kicker Robbie Gould to try and right my wrongs, learn how to be a better kicker, especially in the postseason where he was perfect during his 18-year NFL career. Check this out. We're coming up to you from the NFL Experience out here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am lucky enough to be joined by 18-year NFL veteran kicker Robbie Gould on behalf of DiGiorno. Robbie, how you doing, man? What's it like now being retired but being back around the narcotic right here?
Well, I didn't think I was going to ever kick again, but thanks for reinvigorating. I might come out of retirement after this.
Please explain what you guys got
I just want to make sure that if you do doink this is a good start to this campaign.
Okay.
So people can register at the DiGiornoDoinks.com. And if the ball hits during the big game, the upright or the crossbar, there's going to be a chance to win free pizzas.
All right.
All right.
Post for pizza. Robbie, I need you to help me. I was a former college offensive lineman. I wasn't one of those guys that grew up kicking in high school, and I had a very embarrassing moment in my kicking resume. Do you think you can help coach me through how to kick a better field goal?
I could definitely help you kick better than what you started. Normally what you do is you pick a target, all right? I would probably just pick the U or the R. We're a little bit, got the overhang, so you can't kick it too high. Sure. So we want to try to keep it low, go 2 steps back to the left, and then see where the line is over the midline of the ball.
Yep.
Split that in the bottom of the ball and hit it a quarter of the way up. When you go to hit it, you're going to hit it just like that with the big part of your foot. Right, yep.
Here we go.
Get in! Oh! You almost made it and got the doink. All right, let's go one more. Go! Oh! That was so close, so close. That was good. That was really good. I'm gonna have a little fun here. I'm gonna see if I can actually hit the crossbar. All right, here we go. Oh! Absolutely.
Robbie, can't thank you enough for the help here. Awesome stuff again on behalf of DiGiorno. We're rooting for posts this Super Bowl.
Lots of posts, but they have to go in. That's the point.
Posts, and they got to go in.
Yep.
Great stuff. Robbie Gould, legend, veteran.
Thanks,
thank
buddy.
you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It felt a little better.
A little better now, because truth be known, in Chicago it was icy out there.
And it was like a 2 foot by 2 foot patch of grass. I was just trying not to fall.
I'm just I tell you, you just got to let it go, man. Just whip your leg and kick it. You were like trying to place it. But you did a lot better.
I wanted to hit the post. I was trying to get under it like a 60-degree wedge.
You were trying to hit the post. Yeah. How about just making it look decent instead of Robbie's allowed to try and hit the post, and instead of hitting the post, he just split the uprights.
Let me tell you what, for the people that weren't watching there on the DraftKings Network or on YouTube there, I obviously looked like a former fat guy trying to kick. Watching Robbie handle the football and get it teed up, just the way he manipulates it on the way down, looking so smooth. You saw what 18 years of doing that professionally looked like.
It's impressive.
And it was super cool. So thanks to Robbie. We're rooting for Post and Pizzas this Super Bowl.
Yeah, we are.
There's no doubt about that. Speaking of the Super Bowl and food, Dad, let's get to that. Did you see the video going viral the other day of the Super Bowl suite, the $2.5 million Super Bowl suite, and what you get to eat in the middle of this? We are talking a full-blown crab leg castle, basically built in the middle of this. You got chili cheese dogs, you got barbecue burnt end burritos, a glazed donut. Super Bowl Sunday is where I began to weep sweet tears of joy. This is the kind of thing, by the way, shout out to Christian McCaffrey's mom for bullying him and Olivia Culpo into getting his parents a suite for this game so they can live like this.
I mean, you're right. The donut sundae, the burnt end burrito.
Wagyu beef hot dogs.
Wagyu beef hot dog, bacon-wrapped hot dogs. But the crab tower is unbelievable. But what I still haven't found out, is it like a 20-seater or is it bigger than that? That I don't know.
You better need, that's one of those things, though, like even 20 friends, like trying to divide $2.5 million
you're
by
not
20
doing that, right? I mean, that's one of those where it's just like there's just one really rich person that says, I'm getting this suite and bringing some friends. You're not calling 20 or your 30 of your best friends and say, hey, want to go in on a $2.5 million suite?
And this is a lot of people's problem with the Super Bowl. It tends to be hyper-corporatized. And so it's probably someone's corporate suite. And you get a bunch of people that are going to try and be very serious and impress their boss in there. I'd be in the back absolutely hoovering Wagyu hot dogs.
Taking them, I'd be putting them in a bag.
To-go bag, easy.
The doggy bag to go. You are an academic All-American at Notre Dame. Is corporatized a word?
Oh, yeah. That's a word. Look that up.
Is it? No, you're saying it with conviction. That's something I taught you. Say it with conviction. People will believe it. I don't believe it's a word.
It's it's the same way that like Captain Crunch, crunchitize me is absolutely a word. Crunchitize me, Captain.
No.
Corporatize me, Captain.
No.
Captain. I can't even say it now. You're making me put too many words together. Go ahead and look that up.
I am.
Corporatize. That's a word.
Corporatize.
How dare you deny me?
Corporatize. Okay. All right.
You act like I don't know what I'm talking about up here.
I think you got lucky, but go ahead.
I'm a man. I'm 34. I have acquired and amassed information the likes of which you could never dream of.
In all honesty, okay, we saw that, we showed it, and people can look it up as well. The crab leg thing and some of the food was great. Do you think you should get more for $2.5 million?
I mean, that looked like, yes. The answer is always yes.
Right?
If you're paying $2.5 million, there should be someone there fanning that and feeding you, too.
I have always said as well, we're in Vegas, in that stadium, there should be blackjack tables in the suites.
And I think, like Vegas buffets in every corner of the end zone.
Yeah.
Like Vegas-style buffets.
Agree.
We're completely in agreement on that.
Yep.
Dad, let's get to the third. Something that people apparently aren't in agreement on. We thought, we talked to Max Crosby here, you guys are going to get to hear that. The mayor of Vegas himself, as one of the great star defensive ends, thinks this is going to be the sports capital of the world eventually. Someone who pushed back on that. Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman, saying that the A's should go back to Oakland. She said the A's, who plan to build a $1.5 billion stadium in their city, said it plan doesn't make sense and that the A's ownership should go back to the drawing board and pitch a new plan to the Bay Area. Dad, this seems like the kind of gamesmanship that tends to go on in these scenarios because there's no way on God's green earth the A's are going back to Oakland.
It's a ploy, right? This is a political back and forth, of what Vegas has had to do, especially to get an NFL team here. Things that the mayor is just trying to play the game here of not giving up as much as they want, right, to be able, but still get the professional baseball team. There will be an MLB team here. I think it'll be the A's. There will be, depending on if an NBA team expansion or whatever, eventually you'll have all the four majors here. You have the WNBA here as well. So, yeah, I think this is an absolute ploy. But she is really, really trying hard.
Her quote, I personally think that the A's have got to figure out a way to stay in Oakland to make their dream come true. And then, obviously, when Twitter reacted the way that Twitter usually reacts, she said that she is excited about the prospect of Major League Baseball in her city and that she didn't back off her statement about that, though. But again, I think eventually this happens. LeBron James, who's already been very loud about this, it all roads lead to here, Dad, because the almighty dollars will cover.
What I wanted to see is when she said that, that the should stay in, that I personally think the A's should figure out a way to stay in Oakland to make their dream come true. I needed the camera to stay on her face to see how long she could hold a straight face.
Yeah, just
how long before she went, psych. Kidding.
You see how stupid you all looked? You almost believed that.
You believe me?
Oh, my God. Well, if you guys can believe it, we're still just getting started here in Super Bowl week. Make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and come back and check us out tomorrow. We got Tony Pollard, Sam Hartman, Dan Marino, Joe Montana, and a whole bunch of other great guests coming your way here on GoJo and Golic.